Okay, here's the next couple of questions on this solving trig equations, and here it is. They've got the cosine of 2x plus 3 cos x minus 1 equals 0. They want to find all the solutions that work in between 180 degrees and negative 180 degrees. Okay, now there's a list in the notes that we get today for this Saturday workshop. And it says one of the first things with these trig equations is when you see this cosine of 2x, you've got three options. You see this is cos x over here. You want to keep it in the same trig, one single trig function. So instead of the cos of 2x, make it 2 cos squared minus 1. Don't pick the ones that have sine squared in them. So pick 2 cos squared minus 1. Well, what happens here? Minus 1 is minus 2. Put it in the order so it looks like a trinomial, 2 cos squared plus 3 cos minus 2. Then put down a bracket. You know, you could go to the quadratic formula, put a is 2, b is 3, and c is minus 2, and you'll get two answers in your quadratic formula, positive a half and negative 2. So you could say by the quadratic formula, but this is pretty easy to factor. So if you put 2 cos x and cos x, that gives you 2 cos squared x. Now to get minus 2, it's got to be 1 times 2 somehow. We need to get this plus 3 cos x here, though. Well, 2 cos x times 2, that's 4 cos x. And minus 1 times cos x is minus cos x. Well, 4 cos x minus cos x, that does give me the 3 cos x. So this thing's just right. Then you go 2 cos x minus 1 equals 0. Add 1, divide by 2. Go shift cosine on your calculator. And you'll get plus or minus 60 plus k times 360. There's the general solution. But cos x plus 2 equals 0. Cos x equals minus 2. Put that in your calculator. Shift cosine of minus 2, and it'll say error. Because, hey, cosine's between 1 and 0. 1 minus 2, there's no solution there. So there's just no solution on that side. Well, how many of these solutions will fit in between 180 and minus 180? Well, we've got plus 60 and we've got minus 60. Those are the two answers. Because if we add 360, we'll go outside here. If we subtract 360, we'll go way below here. So your two solutions are plus or minus 60 degrees. Okay, let's look at question 8. Determine the general solution here for, it's cos 2x, 4 sine squared, minus 5 sine x plus 1. Okay, same story here. Look at all this sine stuff. Let's change cosine 2x into the one that only has sine, and so that it's 1 minus 2 sine squared. Well, there you get a mark just for doing that. Now 1 plus 1 is 2. 4 minus 2 is 2 sine squared. Okay, now like I said, you could put 2 minus 5 and 2 in the quadratic formula, and you'll get these two answers out. But it's easy just to put 2 sine x and sine x to give you 2 sine squared x. We need minus 5 here, and we need a positive here, so it must be minus 2 times 2 to give me minus 4 sine x. Minus 1 times this sine x is another minus. There's your minus 5 sine x. Minus 1 times minus 2, that's giving me the plus 2. Well, 2 sine x minus 1 equals 0. Add 1, divide by 2. Shift sine of a half, you get 30 degrees. And the other solution, that's one of them. The other solution is 180 minus 30. That's 150 degrees. So there it is. There's your general solution. And k is an element of the integers. Right? Again, if you go the sine of x equals 2, sine of x minus 2 equals 0, add 2. Your calculator says error because there's just no solution. Sine's between 1 and 1 and minus 1. So this has just got no solution. Let's take a look at the next one. This one's a little bit trickier. You start off here, multiply both sides by cosine x. Now for this to be a proper thing, One thing cosine x can't be is 0. So one of the restrictions is that cosine x cannot be 0. So there's certain angles that just can't work. But if you multiply everything by cos x, you'll get 6 cos squared x minus 5 cos x equals 4. Subtract 4. Then factor it. 3 times 2, that gives me 6 cos squared x. 4 times 1 gives me minus 4. And look at this, minus 4 times 2, minus 8, plus 3, that gives me the minus 5x. Well, let 3 cos x minus 4 equal 0. Add the 4, divide by 3. Cos x equals 4 over 3. Well, but that doesn't work, and your calculator will tell you shift cosine of 4 over 3 is just an error. But shift cosine of minus a half, see if we subtract 1, divide by 2, we'll get cos x equals minus a half. Shift cosine of minus a half, your calculator will say 120 degrees. So it's positive 120 and minus 120. That's the way cos works. Plus k times 360, and k is an element of the integers. And that's it for the next section.